Hey guys, welcome to another of my Drawabox videos. Previously I showed you how I did the homework exercises for the lines and ellipses section of the Drawabox course, and today I'm excited to finally get started on the boxes section. There are 4 homework exercises for boxes, but I'll only be doing the first 2 in this video, so let's get right into it. The first homework exercise is called the plotted perspective exercise. You can see here that I've divided my page into 3 sections. First, I'll use a ruler to draw the horizon line, on which I'll mark 2 points as the vanishing points. The goal is to draw several boxes in 2-point perspective that's going back to these vanishing points. I'll start by drawing the closest vertical edge of the box somewhere between the 2 vanishing points. Thankfully, we're allowed to use a ruler for this exercise, and it makes it so much easier. From the line, I'll draw the remaining edges of the box back to the vanishing points. And then I'll draw the other vertical edges to close off the box. You really want to be as careful as possible when drawing each of these lines, because even though you're using a ruler, if you miss the angle by just a small margin, your lines might still end up not lining up in the end. This exercise tests your basic knowledge of perspective, and if you have a solid grasp, then this should be no problem for you. After finishing my first box, I'll just move on to continue drawing more boxes until I kind of fill out the first section. I try to vary the distance between each vanishing point so that I can get boxes in slightly different perspectives. Once I start to add more and more boxes, the lines start to get more confusing, so that's when I know I need to stop and move on to the next section. Given the straightforwardness of this exercise, we are only required to fill out 1 page. I'm going to speed up the footage now so that we can move on to the next exercise, which is slightly more difficult. Here I'm shading in the right faces of each of the boxes just to make them stand out a bit and it's not so confusing to look at. As I mentioned before, this exercise is quite straightforward, and if you know where each line goes, then it's quite difficult to mess this exercise up. Okay, so that's the completed plotted perspectives exercise. And now I'll be moving on to the more difficult version, which is called the rough perspective exercise. This exercise is quite similar to the previous one. You'll still be working in these windows of your page with a horizon line. However, the boxes you draw now will be in 1-point perspective instead. Also, you aren't allowed to use a ruler, and each line has to be drawn freehand using the ghosting method. And instead of drawing each box one at a time, you will just draw the front face of each box at the beginning, and then add the remaining edges later. I'll be laying out 5 of these faces. And here comes the difficult part. You'll need to estimate how these perspective lines are converging towards the vanishing point that you drew earlier. Without a ruler, mark a point between a corner of your box and the vanishing point, where you think the edge of the box should go. Then using the ghosting method, fill in that line. And you're going to repeat this process until you have all the perspective lines. And once you've done that, draw in the last few horizontal edges of your box. This whole process will take quite a while because you're required to ghost every single one of your lines. You can see here that when I'm ghosting my perspective lines, I start my arm movement from the corner of the box all the way back to the vanishing point. However, when I actually draw the line, I stop only at the point where my box edge ends. This helps me to get a better sense of the angle that is required to draw these lines. Something I learned at this point of the exercise was that I shouldn't be drawing all my boxes so close to the vanishing point. Since all the perspective lines are converging around here, this area starts to get really messy, and it's hard to see where my lines are actually going. The homework calls for 2 fully filled pages, but I'm just gonna skip ahead to the last panel to keep this video short. Okay, so after I finish drawing all the boxes, I'm going to check the accuracy of the perspective lines. Using a blue pen and a ruler, I extend each of these lines to see how close I get to the actual vanishing point. You might have noticed me doing this for the previous page as well. Naturally, I was more accurate with the boxes closest to the vanishing point, and as for the rest, I can't say I did very well. I was surprised at how far off I was, even though I ghosted my lines all the way back to the vanishing point. But I guess it's just something that you will get better at with practice. So that's me completing the first 2 exercises in the boxes section. I hope you learned something from watching me do all of these step by step. In my next video, I'll be working through the remaining 2 exercises, the rotated boxes and the organic perspective exercises. So stay tuned for that. And thanks for watching.